links to it, excuse me, via GoToWebinar. But we have a number of things we want to go through today. Number of new things that we have in the software, so I'm just going to move this ahead. Just ask somebody to verify, please. Are you able to hear me? Okay, Paul just answered yes, he can. Okay, great. And I'll move my screen ahead. There's a lovely picture of Paul on the right. He always seems to hide and not get his picture onto this thing. None of us like our picture on here, but it's one of those, we kind of have to do it. The Investment Builder Series objectives that we have for today, as we always have, is to increase learning about the Doc.It products. We try to share with you best practices we've learned from other firms and learn how to serve your clients better. So with that in mind, our agenda for today is just a very, very brief element of housekeeping. Bookkeeping. I've been training too much lately. We'll go over some highlights of the release that's coming out, discuss a mini release that's going to be happening in January. We'll do a product discussion, and today on with us is Paul Piccini, our Director of R&D. As the session goes along, he'll be watching the questions panel. He'll be answering some of those questions. Him and I will probably handle the Q&A together today. I've been working with some of the people on one of the areas of the product in particular, and we'll probably handle some of the questions there. And Paul has, everywhere else in the product, he has extensive knowledge, so he'll be handling the questions from there. So moving ahead to our next slide, your phones are on mute. If you'd like to ask a question as we proceed, please. There is a questions tab on the GoToWebinar panel. We'll answer what we can during the session. Some Paul will specifically save for us to go through at the end when we take a little bit of a questions and answer session. So what we have as the highlights of the release, just to go through over very high level, French language has been added to the suite. There will now be 64-bit support of Outlook. There is some enhancements into my inbox when multiple documents are being archived, that we can have policies into the information once, and the policy information will be retained and can be applied to multiple files that you want to put away. So a little, a good little enhancement there of time. Number of enhancements in the area of workflow, where we've added things like priority, period end. We put some enhancements into the time entry, into the binder event history, and significantly also into reporting. So that's why it was timed, because we know that some of this will be needed for the busy season. But there's been some good peripherals added into the workflow enhancements, and a number of smaller enhancements have been added. We will discuss in the next couple of slides a rewrite of Doc.It Watch and of our OCR. So our development team's been very busy. Something like French language won't maybe resonate with many of you. We do have a number of clients in the province of Quebec who are French-speaking, and there are laws there with the requirements for them to operate with software that is in French. We wanted to meet up with that requirement that they have. And the rewrite of Watch and OCR is not necessarily something that sits on the user interface that we use every day, but it's something that works in the peripheral and has a lot of impact into the software. So let's talk a little bit about that new Doc.It Watch and OCR. The purpose of the rewrite, they were still the same product that was being used in version 3. So it is a rewrite with the goal being be more stable. We used to have crashing that would occur because of OCR. Our Doc.It Watch would crash, and that's why many times we had to reset the Doc.It Watch. So in doing these two, it'll make for those two products being more stable, less crashing. You'll have better character recognition because of the nature of the OCR engine, because of the things that we have written into it. It'll lead to better, if you use the advanced forms recognition, you'll get better advanced forms recognition. We will be also better document search results will come into being because characters will be better recognized themselves. So that's a little bit about what is rewriting Watch and OCR. Now, it is in beta testing right now. It is not a part of the release that's coming out in December. It is in beta testing because we want to ensure that it's properly working, that it's very tight before we release it. We are looking for some beta sites, and if anyone would like to help to become a beta site to help with the testing of the product, you can actually put it into your live environment. Please email, that's Paul Piccini at Doc.It.com. You'll see his email address in the center of the screen. If you do volunteer to be a beta site and there are some issues, you can very easily revert back to the old Watch and OCR if problems are encountered. So it's not like once you go there, you're damned, and you're going to be stuck with the beta. If something were to be encountered, we could switch you right back to your old watch and your old OCR. So it's, not a big risk, but we would appreciate, we've tested it in alpha testing. We've got these 2 sites who are running it, and we've been able to get the feedback from them and adjust it for their feedback. But we need a few more sites before we feel comfortable to release this product, because we know how critical that OCR and watch are. Now, this will be released in the future to those who want it. So it's not like we're going to say, okay, in a general release, say in January, everyone who upgrades automatically gets it. We will make it available, and if you wish to have it, you'll be able to have it. Once we get past the busy season, it will be the standard product, and it will be released with the subsequent upgrades. But coming through this busy season, it'll be on a as need or as required, as requested basis. So if anybody could help us with the beta of this, we would really appreciate it. It'll only make for a better product, and that's how we can make sure that when it's released to the public, that it is more stable and that it is very viable and it's very sound for all of your business needs. All right. Just something to make you aware of, there is going to be a little mini release in January. There's a few more little workflow items. Very difficult with the large writings that we were doing with French and OCR and Watch. They were very large projects. To get everything into the December release that we wanted, there's some due dates, automated due dates for binder due dates and state due dates. That's in workflow. Reporting on those due dates. We have some critical reporting that we want to do. There'll be some great there'll be some great reporting that you'll be able to do to be help you to further manage your work. We've got a little bit of an further enhancement to a concept called estimated time to complete. That's part of the time system. And it will just really bring, if we're at workflow 1.0, I think when we're done, we're going to be very close to what we could call workflow 2.0, just with the things added in this release and those final things that will come out in the mini release. We'll cover a number of those today because they're very, very useful for many of our clients. Included in that mini release will be some tax season tune-ups just for performance. And again, this will be an optional release. Will be available to those who want it. So if you're locking down your technology after this release that we're putting out in December, you may not want it if you're a heavy workflow user and you would find some of these things to be of great advantage, then you may want to consider that January mini release. Okay, but just wanted to make you aware of it, that it is coming. It'll be somewhere probably third week or so of January, just on a rough, third to fourth week of January, where that mini release would be available. So let's get ourselves right into the software. Enough of PowerPoint, and let me just escape out of here. I'll get myself into my software, and here we have the software up. So for those of you who are on with us today, who are from the Belle Province of Quebec, something you have been waiting for and something that we were looking forward to providing for you was the fact that you could run the software in the French language. Now, in order to run it in the French language, if you go under Maintenance menu, if you were to go to the firm-wide settings, there's one thing that you would need to turn on, and that is to enable the language selector. If one turns on Enable the language selector, these changes that are made to the firm-wide settings, they're not, they don't kick in until the next time you log in, so I'm just going to log out. And you'll see here now, when I have the language selector, I'm just going to click on Francois, and you will see that everything here is in French. And everything in the suite will be in French. Now, when we say in the suite, what that means is that does not include peripherals like Doc.It Scan, Doc.It Watch, the email converter, the briefcase, the help. These have not yet been converted to French. They will be available in a subsequent release. But all of the screens, all of the output, all of the everything that's needed and necessary when you're working inside the suite will all be in French, and you'll be able to fully operate in French. Now, unfortunately, I'm not very strong on my French, so I am going to operate today in English. I think that would probably work better for everybody on here because that is not my forte. One of the things that we had to mention is that now we support 64-bit Outlook. That would be like, for example, Outlook 2013, Office 2013 that's running 64-bit. We are now able to, this has all been added to the converter so that the email converter so that users can use 64-bit Outlook with the Doc.It tools. and it means that all the files will properly convert. It means that your emails will be able to be dragged and dropped in. So it's something that we wanted to fulfill for our clients, and we're happy to announce that now we have support of 64-bit Outlook. When we go into the advanced forms recognition, for those of you who use the forms recognition, this is used in conjunction with our work binders. It allows us to take just to give a little background, allows us to take a file of tax documents, so I could scan in a large file of tax documents, and those tax documents then could run through the forms recognition. It will recognize and organize those documents, name them, put them away into the work binders. We've done some work to lead to increased recognition of certain characters, which in the past gave us incorrect results. And it's amazing how you can use something like a square bracket, and all of a sudden an OCR engine can define that as the letter L. And we've made changes so that we work with different characters, and we protect ourselves against different characters so that we can get enhanced recognition. And it'll just mean that there's less things than showing up in the unrecognized pages, because the forms recognition will be able to take the documents cutting out of the OCR engine, and we'll be able to deal with them better. So we've tuned that up. We've also done a number of those tunings, if not more, with respect to forms recognition and how it will work with the new OCR, just because we have a few more tools that are at our disposal. Another change that has been made in the forms recognition, so I'm just going to go to the maintenance menu. I'm going to go to the AFR Forms Manager. In the AFR Forms Manager, in the past, the description was mandatory. So let me just go here to a W-2. It did require a form name as well as a description. It is now possible to leave the description blank. If you leave the description blank, the form name is what the name of the file will be when it comes into your binder. And just shortens the names down. In some cases, there could have been some duplication depending on what was done. But it just allows that you do not have to fill in a forms description. So if you're adding new forms, you don't want to. You want to go through forms that you currently use and delete form descriptions so that you have shorter names of files. That's fine. It was requested by a number of people, and we got that in here for you so you'll have it for this year's tax season. All right. Next topic has to do with my inbox and archiving. Now, technically, we can archive from a binder, but I think we archive. I'm not speaking publishing. I'm speaking archiving. So it's taking a specific document or multiple documents and archiving them. There's been some changes made such that in the past, if I wanted to put multiple documents away, and for example, if I was using the same policy, or if I was using the same policy and the same input that was required on that policy, every time I put a document away, I had to go reselect the policy, refill in the data that was needed and necessary, and I had to do that every time for every document. We've made changes now. I'm just going to pick these first two documents in my inbox so I've got some example. And I will go into Archive a Document. And let me full screen this so it's a little larger. What we allow you to do now is that you can keep the same policy or the same input from that policy. It will be retained, excuse me, it'll be retained unless you say, I don't want to retain it. So it's just different things that have been set up. So firstly, it will retain the policy and the entered document name information. So let me just go here. I'm going to pick a policy. Let's just say this is a tax working paper. So if I went in and let's say it was 2014-12-31, I'm just entering some arbitrary information. If I was to archive this, and the next document comes up, it will keep the same policy selected. So first I have to pick a client. Let's pick my test client. If I archive this, I'm just going to take this document and I'm going to archive it. What will happen is if I archive it, it'll come back with this same information filled in, the same policy picked in, and I can just click on my next document, either select a new client, or it could be for the same client, and it allows then that document will get put away, and what it'll do is when it gets put away, I still retain this information. I can select a new client and put the second document away. So it saves me going out and having to pick a policy or potentially having to pick a policy a second time and then having to fill the data in. We've added a new checkbox which says clear policy info after archiving. Now what this does is it will retain the policy previously selected, for the next file to be archived, but will clear the data entered by the user when completing the document name information. So whatever was required up here to be entered, if I was to click this, what it'll do is it'll keep the same policy selected. It'll just clear this out. So when I was to put this one away, the next one I could go in and enter a new date. Now I don't have to click on that. I'm just going to put this first one away here. And it's away, and what happens is you can see the same policy is selected, the same data has been entered. I could pick a new client, and I could hit archive. So where we're putting multiple documents away that are going to use the same policy, maybe you're putting something like invoices away from your billing runs. Maybe we're putting tax returns away, or putting certain types of documents away that we may have multiple of. It's really going to help us to keep to the same. And if I wanted to, I could just go pick another policy, and away I go. That's up to me. But it will allow it to be filled in. If I wanted to change this input, I could go change the input. But if I hit this, what it will do is it'll keep the same policy selected, and it will change. It'll clear the input. So I could have just come in and cleared it myself, but it can just save me one step. Now you can see that there is another new checkboxes here, but it's grayed out because we have to understand the application for it. Sometimes what firms will do is they may have a staff that does something to a file. They send it to a partner for review. The partner's going to look at it very quickly. Maybe they send a copy out to the client. Maybe they just want to look at it for review. Then what the partner does is he puts it away into the archive. Now, oftentimes when this file is sent to them, a policy has already been attached. Now, in the past, you could not attach a policy. If you attached a policy, it wasn't retained. And when you got here to archive, it wanted you to enter a new policy. So there was no point in adding a policy in advance. So I'm just going to show you an example. I can take a file, and if I was to take this file here, if I was a worker, I'm a user of the system, I might want to do something. I go in and I add a policy. So I'm just going to go in and pick here from my policies, and I don't want those. Some of these are ones I'm always playing with. Maybe I got an invoice I'm putting away, and I could fill in this data. So maybe it's 2014, 1130, invoice number 129. There's my invoice number, and I save this. I might forward this on to the partner. If I sent this to the partner, and the partner was to receive this document, and they were to look at it, they were going to archive it. When they go in to archive the document, this is now picked up, which recognizes that there is a policy, and if I want to, it will use the policy information that's already attached to the file. So I don't have to select the policy. I don't have to go through and fill things out, which is what it was forcing me to do before. But this only becomes lit up if there is a policy existing on a file. And I would know that because I can see that there is a policy. So I could just say, great, somebody's put a policy on it. I'm just going to archive it. And it just saves me the whole step of what we used to have to do is go through and pick a policy and refill it in. And it was redundant and it was wasted time. So we can have maybe an administrative staff that's done that, or one of the employees that's working, and it just allows us that when this file arrives, we can take it and use the policy that's already been added. I can look at this and see it has a naming convention. That's not how somebody would normally name the document, and then I would throw it into the archive. So it's just another step that will help us with archiving. These were things that were somewhat available to us in version 3. And some of our clients have specified that this was quite useful, quite a time-saving thing. So we want to offer it out to all of our clients and put this function back into our inbox. Okay. And if I archive, it's just going to use that policy. It's going to put it into the archive. And oh yeah, I got to select the client. That's always a nice touch, Don. And I will archive it. And the document goes, and the document's put away. It's removed from my inbox just like it would have, but it used the policy that was already attached to the document. Okay, the next few topics that we're going to speak about, these all have to do with workflow. Then I'm going to come back to a couple of topics that don't necessarily affect workflow, but can have a very strong tie to workflow. We've added something into the Binder Explorer that is called priority. So priority definitions have been added to the system to give an additional means of assessing what to work on when using workflow, or a way that we can specify a client has a given form of priority, and we'll be able to see that on any binder that we open, whether that is a work binder, a caseware binder, an external binder. They can all have a priority on it. So from an overview perspective, we've added functionality to allow clients to be given a defined priority. There are 5 priority levels that are actually meaningless. They're just priority 1 to priority 5. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then that priority can be applied when binders are created or a binder, an entry is made into Binder Explorer if it was something external. So what you can do is you could stratify your clients to demonstrate the value they add. Now there's something that's commonly known as ABC priority of clients. So maybe you have clients who you do over $20,000 worth of work for, and you can have clients you do over $5,000 of work for, maybe clients you do over $1,000 of work for, and you've got your clients under $1,000. So what you can do is you can add a priority to the client master file, and what it does, it says, okay, this is the priority of this client based on the value of the client. And what's nice is whenever one will go into Binder Explorer, they'll be able to see that. But if you noticed, I only maybe said 4 classifications there because I might want to keep one, like priority number 1, where I might be able to say, okay, this is a special priority I'm going to use when a project has become a rush project. And I can say, hey, I want to make this a number 1 priority, and it's a way of communicating that to everyone who will work on that binder. So there's a lot of, we can be using it for a client so that we have a general understanding what priority a client this is. Which can help when we're deciding what to work on, which can help when, we're going to be assisting multiple clients, choosing which ones we want to work on. But it also allows us to give a project a given priority so that if something's changed and, we're doing a tax return and that client's going away on vacation at the end of the week, we've got to get that out, we can change the priority at the project level, and we'd be able then to be indicating to everybody involved in the project this is now a high priority. So let's get into the details, and let's look at how this all works. I'm going to go into the maintenance. I'm going to go to the client master file. We have added a new field called priority. If I go in to edit the priority is just a selection of 1 to 5. If we set up here in the client master file, any project that we will create can automatically be defined to have the client's priority. Okay? So when we go to create a project, we're then going to see that projects or binders, whether that be internal or a work binder or an external binder, they can have that same priority attached to them. So this one here has been assigned a priority 2. These are meaningless. The numbers 1 to 5 can mean whatever you want. I've just used 2 to 5 to identify different types of clients. You could use 1 to 4, and maybe 5 could be a rush job. You've got to set up your own convention of how you want this to work. So we've added, you can see priority has been added to the client view. Minor 1, if a client is active or not, has been added to the view. Was something that was here. Because this is exportable, it was something that was an important piece of information, just a minor that the active clients have been added. So I'm going to go back to my Binder Explorer, and let's just open here. Let's just open here into my clients. You can see a new field has been added to the Binder Explorer. This is called priority. I'm going to go and I'm going to show you, demonstrate creating a new project and what happens. Now into this client, I'm going to go add a new project from a template. So for this client, I'm going to select the template, and the template's going to be, let's just say it's Personal Tax US. Yeah, I'll use this template, and I'll just say it's 2014. There is a field here for priority. It says, leave blank for the client default. So if I do not fill this in, this binder would automatically be created with the client default. And that would probably be the best practice when you're creating binders, is to leave them, and the priority should be set per the client default. If I do add something in here, it's going to change it, and it's going to be overriding what was the client default. But if you leave it blank, if we're utilizing them in the clients, then we're going to add it here. If there's nothing set up in the client, I could, every time I set up a binder, add a priority. But our best practice is you should set them up in the clients. So that's going to automatically say this client's a level 2 client. This priority 2 is going to be assigned to the binder. I'll add the new project, and you can see this was a level 3 client. So what's it done? It's established as a level 3. These are just examples I was playing with when I was playing with the new facility, and I wanted to override and I wanted to make sure I knew how it worked. So here I have a project. It's priority 3. This helps me when I'm deciding what I should work on. Not only do I have the due dates and the binder start dates and the state due date and the state start date, not only to have that information and who it's assigned to, we'll talk a little bit about the original estimate. I can see how long the budget is on that project. But now I have priority, and that can help me to decide what I need to work on. So it's very important that I can see what is this client's priority. Now let's say something changes. The partner comes along and says, okay, great, this is now a rush job. I need to know this project's got to get out right away. One could go into a project, and they can always go into the binder properties, and visible in the binder properties is the priority, and this maybe now has become, maybe this has become a priority 1, and this is now a high priority, but the priority here is now visible to everyone who will work on the project. So it's a means that you can override a priority, and you don't have to do it via a note or something like that. Right clear on the screen, whether you want to use 1 as a rush job, whether you want to use 5 as a rush job, and 1 to 4 is how you identify your clients in material. But in this case, whatever it means to be, if this is going to be my number 1 priority, I can now see, and what will be helpful is when people want to pick what to work on from the work binder or from the workflow system, they now also have a priority definition, which would greatly help them. We've also added this to the universal reporter so that you can create reports, and one of the things that you can include or filter on includes priority. One of the things for my screen, I can filter on priority on my screen, and it just gives me that much better information to know what I'm doing. Now on conversion, everything is converted as a 3. So when we receive this, automatically priorities will be established. They'll all be set at a priority of 3, and you can update priority if you want. If you don't want to use priority, you can just move that column off to the far right side. Another field that has been added used to be the client master file. Never really went anywhere because we knew we wanted to add it to the Binder Explorer. Is period end. I've just shortened the name down so I don't have to get I don't need that whole name. I know that when I look at this, once you get a little used to it, I can just call it the period, and I know that's their period end. There'll be a period end. Maybe when you're looking at a client, it's not super helpful. But if I had a different search where I was looking at things across clients, maybe I'm looking at all of the work assigned to me. Now when I'm working assigned to me, I'm going to see priorities. I can sort on the priority column, and so all the work of the highest priorities at the top. I'll be able to see year-end type information. This is going to be really handy because I might be able to want to filter to say I only want to see all the things that have a December 31st year-end. So it gives me another filtering. It will give us in the future another form of reporting because I want to report, and when I put this together with due dates, I could create a report, something in the future. This will be as we get to the January release. We'd be able to report on something like, show me all of September year-ends where we haven't filed the tax returns yet. And this is the type of reporting we're going to get to. We needed year-end to be available to us in the Universal Reporter so that it could be something we could report on. The due date enhancements are going to be making on that January mini release, and the associated reporting enhancements would allow for reports along that line. So this is a big step towards where we're going, but just as a minimum, it's valuable information on my Binder Explorer screen. Something else that we have done is we have worked on within the binder, the time system. Now within workflow, you can have budgets. Within workflow, you can enter time. Now what is time is this concept of time has been greatly expanded because we may have a budget, and so maybe I've got a budget, maybe I'm doing a big tax return of 100 hours. I could be working on this 100-hour item, and I'm entering my time. So I can go into my time entry here, and I can enter my time. I can be entering my time spent. We've added, there was a field called estimate time remaining. We've given it some good logic now. That what this allows me to do is it allows me when I'm entering to say what time do I want to enter. Then it will show me here the amount of budget that there is that's left in this project. So if I had a 12-hour budget and previously we'd entered 2 hours, I'm going to be able to know that I have 10 hours left in my budget. And I have the option of just leaving that 10 hours, or I can override it and make the budget whatever I want so that I'll have a very meaningful number of what amount of work is left. Where that's really important is when we get into capacity planning. So if I want to see how much work does Don have, It's not good enough to say, well, he's got he has 100 hour of work of preparation on this project, he's got 50 hours on that project, he's got 5 hours on that project. Well, if of that 100 hours I've already done 80 hours, important to know is how much time do I have left to go? It's important to know that I had 100 hours budgeted, I have spent 80, so I've only got 20 hours left to go. So when I look at the capacity planning for this individual, I need to know that they only have 20 hours left to go. Now, not only could it be budget minus actual, I might get to 80 hours into this project and say, wow, I'm almost done. I only need 5 more hours to finish. And I could manually change that to 5. And all of a sudden, if we do capacity reports, we're going to be able to know that there's only 5 hours work to go. Or conversely, maybe I've got 80 hours in. I've only got 20 hours of budget to go, but I need 40 hours more because we're behind. I can estimate that and say I've got 40 hours left to go. And what's going to happen is into the capacity planning, it's going to show that Don's got 40 hours more of work to go. So it's a concept that we have added here. It's going to work its way down into the universal reporter such that when we go in and we say, okay, how much work do people have? It's not how much was their original budget. It's going to be how much they have left to go, which is actual budget minus time spent or a figure that someone has manually override and put in here. So it's just so that we get meaningful results. Otherwise, results of capacity reporting could be incredibly meaningless. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to put some real value here we're putting some real value into the time side of the system, and we'll also see it in a couple of minutes on the time reporting side of the system, so that there is usefulness to budgeting, there is usefulness to entering time, and it will give valuable managerial information. In conjunction with this, there's been a change here into the binder event history. Into the binder event history, we've changed the screen to actually show a lot more. It will show all of the entries as we used to show. It'll show all of the entries. Let me get to a better project. Let me get back to my client search. And let me get back here for this particular, not the project I want. Yeah, what's the project I wanted? Sorry. And it will be showing me, I'll be able to see assignments, I'll be able to see estimated remaining time. So it'll be a calculation of, sorry, that's not the one I wanted, it was the 2013, there we go. It'll have some, I just want to open the project. It'll have some good calculations in it of some time remaining that on the project. So, you know, I had a budget of 11 hours. I've spent 5 right now for capacity purposes. There's 6.376 hours, 37 minutes of time left. This was information that really didn't show before. We didn't have a good feel of how much work is left. It'll also now show us assignments into the future that haven't, or states into the future that haven't been worked on. What are the budgets of those states? So it's just giving us more information, because if I wanted to go work on something, I could always look and say, well, gee, how much time is in the budget? We could never see how much time per state was budgeted on the screen. It's now available to us in binder event history. So it's to give the user, you know, they know what their budget is for the piece of work they're working on. It wasn't visible before. They can see the future things to come. They'll see how much budget they have left because it's showing them how much time has been spent. Just a much more powerful screen, so that not only do we have tracking of how projects have moved from one state to another state, or not only do we have time bookings that we will see the time that people have entered as the project has proceeded. So here's the time that's been entered, the time records. We'll also be able to see the future. We'll also be able to see the budgets. It just becomes a very, very powerful screen for the users, and this is the setting up of data that we will need when we're doing capacity reporting. So it's moving this concept of time and the usefulness of Doc.It's time system into a whole new level. Now that moving that time into a whole new level means we need to be able to report better. So we've added into the Universal Reporter, which might be something, a facility in the system. I'm going to go off my main menu. The Universal Reporter may have been a facility that really wasn't being utilized too much in the system. And what the Universal Reporter is, it allows you to create reports, and you can send them off to Excel. I can send them to just to see it online reporting. But we can create reports against the database and extract information that can be quite useful. So, for example, I've created a few reports. One I'm just going to demonstrate. This is This is a time entry report, and I just based it on I want to get information about time entry that there has been. And here I'm seeing all of the entries. I just did them across a 1-week period. So this was the time that I've entered. Sometimes when I move things from state to state, I may not have had time entered. But here are all the time entries that I have made. There's not a lot here. You know, who did it? So these are my time entries. Who was the client? What was the specific project? What state was it in? What date was it? This could be very handy if people want to use this as a basis for time entry into a time billing system. But we never could report on time entry before. Now I have a basis for time entry, and I can extract those types of information, because if I wanted to come along and do time entry into my time system, I'd be able to utilize these results. Now, I don't have a lot of data here, just because I've only been playing with this just a little bit. But I wanted to create this report, and I can very easily create a report. And with the report writer, we can pick up the fields we want and how we want it sorted, and we can put different criteria for filtering information. And then from here, I can either fire it to Excel or to CSV. I could have it as a screen report. So reports can be created. They can be shared. They can be made public so that people can go and run them. People can create their own reports. This is an example of a time entry report. I may want to know historical budget to actual by work binder. And so I've written a report, and it's going to show me, you know, by partner, by client, what is the specific project, and I said I want to see it for 2014, and I can see what the budget was, what the total time spent was on the project, and this would allow for great budget to actual reporting. Partners may want to know for all of their jobs, you know, how did we do? We budgeted time. What was the actual time spent? This is at the binder level, not a binder. That could be caseware. You know, they're all binders as we define them in the system. So now I can get budget to actual reporting. This is at the binder level. I can go down at the state level. I could go down to, you know, well, at the state level, and I'm getting into the real nitty-gritty details at that point. But if I want to just know at the project level, I can easily get information out like that. I can get a report of who completed, you know, who completed specific states in a project. So if I wanted, this is just all projects, but I could have tied this to a single project. And I could just say for a project, I want a report of who completed it and when was that completion done. So this is the audit that used to be available. It is available when you go to the binder event history. We now can report on that. And reportings, you know, I could do reportings on capacity. I want to know all the work currently assigned to people, where the state is assigned to them right now. And I could say, great, how much work has Don got on his desk electronically? How much work right now is on Don's desk? How much work right now is on Joe's desk? How much work is on Joanne's desk? And that would be how much work is currently assigned to them. I could also do capacity planning to say, okay, I want to know how much work is currently on their desk and all of the states yet to come in projects where it hasn't gotten to the state yet. So maybe a project is in preparation, but Don's the guy who's the reviewer. Well, if it's in preparation, it's not on my desk yet. But it could come onto my desk because that project's in progress. So I can see capacity currently on one's desk. I can see capacity that has been assigned to that person of all of the workload that's sitting out there in the system. So it gives us good views of being able to see work out there. I can see all of the projects that are in progress that haven't started yet, that are personal tax. How much work is there out in the system yet to be done in tax season? This is types of information that now, because of these changes we've made in this release, this information is available to us here in the Universal Reporter. So we've really opened up this reporter so that we're going to try to put a lot more tools in your hands. We've enhanced the time entry. We've enhanced the things like completed, what data is available to you here in the Universal Reporter so that you can extract the information you need to extract and you can report on it. Okay, so it's an area of the system that really we had just kind of minorly had our Universal Reporter there. It was only of limited value. What we're trying to do now is put the power in your hands that you can create your own reports. You can extract data how you want to extract it so that you can help. This all helps in managing your business because it's a view ahead. It's a view back. Workflow is giving me certain views, and data and management capability, having that information to us, really helps us to run our business. Okay, I'm going to go to one more little concept. I really didn't know how long it was going to take me to run through these areas. I'm going to go to one little concept. We do have open our question areas. We really don't have a lot of questions that have been asked yet, and we're very open for questions. There are about, after what I've talked about, there are about 9 other enhancements that are being put into the system. There's about 900. There's about 9 other elements that are there. So a question just came in. I see a public folder button. How does that work? What it works is it just allows us to make a report available to anyone who has Universal Reporter. So right now, this is called My Report. If I went in to edit this, I could make this report public. Now, if I make this report public, I'm still the only person who can edit it. So maybe a manager has created a report. They want their staff to be able to run the report, but they don't want the staff going in and changing maybe all the parameters that are set up. I can make this public. What it means is anyone who has access to Universal Reporter would have access to that report that was created only for purpose of running it. So what could be great is you can have reports, you make them public, maybe an administrative staff will run them and fire the results off to various people. Allows it to be done. Okay. If it's my report, only I can run it, but it is only the person who created the report who is the author who has manipulation or can change the report. So if it's my report, obviously I can change it. If it's public, I'm the author. I'm the only one who can change it. So thank you. Brenda, you asked that question. I had the opportunity to steal one of Paul's questions for the Q&A. All right, one more thing I want to touch on. This is something to do with my inbox, and there's sometimes you can get some would appear to be unusual results, and depending on what you're doing, and we have found that we have a number of clients who do insolvency work, and this can be very important to them. A couple other clients with some of the work that they're doing, sometimes when it comes to things like your back scanning, maybe you're a new company and you're getting last year's information in, you want to do back scanning, this is something that can be very helpful. And this is something here called Scan Sequence. It's been added to my inbox, and it's something that's also in firm-wide settings. What it allows is it allows an additional sort of information coming in. I'm going to give you the scenario. I'm going to give you the scenario of where this can occur. If I was to take a 500-page file, let's say I scanned it in. I know I'm being ridiculous. Let's say a 100-page file. So I go scan a 100-page file in, and then I scan in a 10-page file, and I scan in another 10-page file. Depending on how Doc.It Watch is being set up, and especially with a new Doc.It Watch, where we can do load bearing, where it can run across multiple processors and so on, it could be that the 10-page file of those scanned seconds arrives in the inbox before the 100-page file. And maybe the second 10-page file arrives second, and third in comes the 100-page file, because it's going to take a while for that 100-page file to go through. So what will happen is when each file is scanned, it gets a sequence. And the sequence would obviously be that the first sequence would be for the file that was, the 100-page, and the second sequence would be for the next, and the third the next. But we can add a sequence. The sequence will automatically be added. If you're not using sequence, don't worry about it. But it's just going to help that rather than come in by revision date, which is when did it appear in my inbox, Scan Sequence for some people may be very important because they scanned in 20 different things, and they want to make sure that the order in which they scanned them in is the order in which they appeared here, because they may want to then take them, they may be combining them, they may be archiving them, and that sequence is very, very important. So there is a new Scan Sequence that is added. One can go into there under maintenance. We have firm-wide settings. And if this is a very important thing, they can have the default, say, for example, in the inbox, could now be to Scan Sequence versus revision date. And what that would mean is that it is firm-wide. That means every person would be working that way. And this is the default of how it will come up. But if you want Scan Sequence to be the default across the firm, you can set it. Or when I'm in my inbox and I have my documents, if I know, sorry, my inbox, I closed it. If I'm in my inbox, I can always have Scan Sequence. And if I click on Scan Sequence, this isn't a scanned document, but if it was a scanned document, it'll have a Scan Sequence. And it will sort all the documents then by Scan Sequence. So if you want to run as a company, I don't think many would, but this is just where you can have your documents in a scan sequence, and they would appear then in the order in which they were scanned, not the order in which they arrived in your inbox. So it's just an additional thing. It helps with our problems. Now, if I'm printing from tax software, if I'm printing from QuickBooks, that doesn't have a scan sequence because it wasn't scanned. This is only files that have come through the scanning process. Okay? So it's one of those. We have had a number of clients that have requested that, and that's something that we wanted to put in for you. So like I said, there's about 9 other enhancements. We don't have time to go through them. Some of them are just talked through items. And we tried to pick what we felt would be some of the more important. So there's a lot of focus here on workflow, a lot of focus on reporting, some enhancements for the forms recognition, French language, but also don't forget we have out there that new watch and that new OCR. And again, if you're interested, you're very interested in being a beta site, please email Paul, and we would love to utilize your firm, even if it's only for a couple of weeks. But you can, like I said, you can revert back to your old watch and OCR. Minimal difficulty. It's not like you go to it, and like when you went to version 4, you're there. Very, very difficult to go back. But with watch and OCR, we can easily revert you back. If you could help us with that, that would be great because we need that field tested. You know, we've got it at a couple of sites, but we'd like to do a few more before we open it up to the public as a whole. All right, Mr. Paul, this might be a good idea, a good time, please. If we could get you to hop on, maybe there's a few questions. I know only a couple have been asked. If any more questions want to be asked, please feel free, ask your questions. Paul's with us for the next 10 minutes or so, and he'll address any questions that we have that come up. So, Paul, please.
Hi, Don. Hi, everybody. Actually, one of the things you were just mentioning with the new watch and OCR that maybe people wouldn't be aware of is, in addition to, you know, rewriting it, we added some capabilities to it. We added the ability to have concurrent processing of OCR documents so that you can have multiple OCR engines, and you can have up to 4 concurrent threads processing your OCR. And the effect that that has is, in the old system, it was a purely linear OCR processing. So if you had a queue of documents and one of them had happened, the third document in the lineup happened to be a monster, then everybody had to wait for that one to go through before any documents after it would come through. Now, with the concurrent processing and the multi-threading, that document will go off in another thread, and maybe you might have some smaller documents. Those will process at the same time, and so the monster won't hold up the smaller documents. Okay. We have some questions that have come in. We did have a question after we talked about the public reporting. We had a question about, will we have the ability to do the same kind of thing with our managed searches? So, Don, if you could just go maybe to the managed searches area.
Yep.
So, just so people know what that question pertains to.
Here's managed searches right here. Right now, if I create a managed search, it's on my system, and it's only available to me. And I think the question is, could we have like centralized managed searches or public managed searches so that you know, one person could create a search and everybody could have access to it?
Right, and so we've had that requested from a number of firms, and it's definitely on our radar, and it will be in a future release. Not necessarily January, but next year I suspect it will be there, probably in the post-tax season release.
Okay.
We have another question.
Which one, Paul, are you looking at?
I'm just trying to get to the bottom of the list here now. There's a couple questions that just came in.
I'll address one while you're reading then. When will you discuss the automated due date calculations for binders? This is something that will be coming out in the January mini release. What it will allow you to do, basically, the principles, I'll discuss the principles. You know, you can say, great, for a specific type of project, we want a certain specific binder due date. It could be 90 days after the end of the year. It could be April 15th. It could be 3 weeks after the start date. These are types of things, and you know, maybe you've got some set criteria that you want to define. So we can have automated due date calculations. Those due dates would auto-populate into binder properties. They would appear in it would be visible in the Binder Explorer, again, visible for reporting purposes. You can also auto-create state due dates, so maybe for the tax return, same types of things. E-filing tax returns, you could put automated due dates based on those types of criteria. So that's what's going to be coming in that January mini release. They'll be able to get into the reporting on those and, reporting on year ends together with due dates and has it happened and those types of elements. Those are the types of things that we will be getting into in that mini January release. So it's not, there are no automated due date calculations today. That's coming in that that January mini release. So Paul, there was a question that you wanted to
Yep, there's one other question that came in early. The question was, when we were talking about 64-bit support, the question is, do we support Office 2013 64-bit? And the answer is yes, we do. We support Office 64-bit now, whereas we didn't, and that includes like Word, Excel, Outlook, all of the Office applications. People should be aware, though, that Microsoft still recommends for people to run 32-bit, and the default when you go to install Office is 32-bit, just because there's so many applications that have been written to work with 32-bit Office that that's Microsoft's recommendation. However, we do have a number of firms running 64-bit Office now, and including Office 2013.
Yep, I am. Yeah. It just it was the Outlook 64-bit was the issue, right? But we were already able to use Word and Excel from a 64-bit app. Okay, any other questions, Paul? Doesn't look like there's any others.
Yeah, here's a new one that just came in.
Oh, okay.
It says, can you combine different PDFs in your inbox in a specific order if they did not scan in the order that you wanted them combined?
Sure.
So, yeah, we can probably demonstrate that pretty easily right now, Don.
Yep, I'll go there. And if we go into my inbox, and I only have one file in my inbox, I think, left. Let me just go add another PDF in here so that I can show it. And open. All right, so I have a couple of PDFs. I'm just going to highlight them. And so it doesn't matter what order that they're sitting here. So assume they had a sequence. Assume they were not in sequential order. So these are just in whatever order they may be. When I go to my right click and I go to Combine, we always have the option when we combine to, I'm just going to call this Test, just for lack of a better name. I can here drag them or rearrange the order. So Paul, I'm just going to confirm, I'm not sure with this, if I went into Combine, they appear in the order which they're sitting. So if it's in sequence order, which is why many clients want them, they will appear in sequence order. But if I was using revision date and this wasn't the order I want, I could just take this file here and drag it. I can drag any of the files wherever I want them. This here allows me to drag it to reorder. So whatever order they're appearing in my inbox from the top down, as I've selected them, is how they initially enter here. I can always move files around. We've always been able to do that. And when I combine, it combines in the order from top to bottom, which they're sitting here in this window. And if I want to move it, I just take it and I drag it and I move things around. Okay, hope that helps and that answers your question. So yeah, but it would just help this scan sequence now. If I picked 10 documents, they would be in the order which they were scanned. Those 10 documents appear in the right order, and I don't have to go and play and try to get them back to an original order. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
I think that's all we've got right now, Don.
Yeah, that's all we've got right now. Very, very quiet on questions. Maybe just due to the type of content that we have. All right. Okay, so we're going to be closing up. There's just no more questions that have come in the last couple of minutes. But thank you very much for attending. We appreciate this. Release will be available. It's by Monday, correct, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay, so by Monday, this release will be available. Our customer care team, Stephen, will be sending out. We will have release notes with it that will accompany to try to explain each of the features. A number of fixes have also been incorporated. There's probably 50 fixes that are also in the release. That'll be in the release notes. And we look forward to utilizing this, and we look forward to you being on with us the next time we have one of our Investment Builder Series sessions. And will there be an email in regards to the release notes? Just to answer that quick question that came in, yes, there will. When they send out the send out the option to upgrade. The release notes are also made available in that same email. Okay, so thanks very much for being with us today. We appreciate you investing your time with us. We hope that today has been some of value to you. You will receive a link in order for this recording if you wish to view it at a later date or if you wish others in your firm to view it. So thanks very much from Paul and I and everyone at Doc.It. And if we don't speak with you, have yourself a great holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.